Parashat Vayakhel-Pekudei discusses the building of the Mishkan. Each parasha, Vayakhel-Pekudei, focuses on a separate part of this process. Parashat Vayakhel focuses on the building of the Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan, whereas Parashat Pekudei focuses on the creation of the Bigdei, the clothing of the Kohanim. This split between the Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan on the one hand and the Bigdei Kehuna on the other hand exists in one other place. In the commandment to create the Mishkan in Parashat Truma and Tetzaveh, the Torah splits between the Klei Mishkan and the Mishkan itself, which is the focus of Parashat Truma, and the Bigdei Kehuna, which the focus is Parashat Tetzaveh. So Parashat Truma, Tetzaveh, and Parashat Vayakhel-Pekudei create this split between the Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan on the one hand, and the Bigdei on the other hand. And in the Psukim themselves, in the Pshat Psukim, there really are two major differences between the Mishkan, the Klei Mishkan, and the Bigdei Kehuna. The first difference is mentioned in Parashas Truma. The Torah says that the Klei Mishkan were created by Moshe Rabbeinu, kasher hiraotcha bahar, as HaKadosh Baruch Hu showed Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. Hashem revealed in front of Moshe Rabbeinu an image, a divine image of the Klei HaMishkan, and Moshe Rabbeinu was expected to create the Klei HaMishkan according to what he saw in front of his own eyes. This phrase, kasher hiraotcha bahar, is mentioned many times over and over again in Parashas Truma regarding the Klei HaMishkan, but is never mentioned in Parashat Tetzaveh regarding the Bigdei Kehuna. An additional difference is mentioned in this week's Parashat Vayakhel-Pekudei. In Parashat Pekudei, regarding the Bigdei Kehuna, the Torah repeats a phrase. One of the phrases repeated again and again in Parashat Pekudei is Kasher Tziva Hashem et Moshe, as Hashem commanded Moshe. The Bigdei Kehuna were created as Moshe is commanded by Hashem. This phrase, Kasher Tziva Hashem and Moshe, is mentioned many times regarding the Bigdei Kehuna and Parashat Pekudei, but is never mentioned in Parashat Vayakhel regarding the Klei HaMishkan. These two differences, the phrase of Kasher hiraotcha bahar, which is a unique Klei HaMishkan and Klei HaMishkan phrase, and the phrase of Kasher Tziva Hashem and Moshe, which is a unique Bigdei Kehuna phrase, really pinpoint a fundamental distinction between the Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan on the one hand, and the Bigdei Kehuna on the other hand. The Mishkan and the Klei Mishkan, the commandment to create them, was really a commandment to replicate what Moshe saw in front of his own eyes, the divine image of the Klei Mishkan revealed to Moshe at Har Sinai. That was what Moshe Rabbeinu and Bezalel were supposed to replicate, and there was no room for human interpretation or creativity or innovation. Whereas by the Bigdei, the Bigdei Kehuna, there was no kasher hiraotcha bahar, there was no divine image. There were just words in the Torah, words that describe how Moshe and Bezalel were supposed to create the Bigdei. There was no image. So if so, these words can be interpreted or had to be interpreted by a human interpretation, an interpretation that allowed human creativity, human innovation, much more of an active human role in how to create the Bigdei Kehuna. And that was a uniquely so or true regarding the Bigdei Kehuna, and that was not so regarding the Klei HaMishkan. These two themes truthfully exist also regarding the history of Am Yisrael throughout the generations. For 2,000 years, Am Yisrael had much more of a passive role and allowed HaKadosh Baruch Hu to really lead us through history. We took much more of a backseat, and we were led through history with much more of a passive role, at least in the physical realm. in the last 70, 80 years since the creation of the Medina, we had the zchus, the merit to receive a much more active role in how history unfolds itself. We have a much more active and physical role. But the danger that comes with that active role is the fact that we'll forget what our real goal is, our divine goal, the divine context in which we're playing in. And that is basically the fact, or the danger, that we'll forget the kasher tziva Hashem et Moshe, the fact that everything we're doing is with a very clear and divine purpose. And our success is really dependent on the fact that we don't forget this. And if we do not forget this, and we remember, and we internalize the fact that kasher tziva Hashem et Moshe, everything we do is with a divine significance and purpose, then we are really promised great success, and we will prosper forever.